Christian, why don't you do a quick intro of yourself and the school?
Yeah.
And what you guys are doing and your role there.
Absolutely, sure. My name is Christian Neral, and I'm the academic dean at Riverstone United Christian Academy, or RUCA. We are in our second year as a brand new Christian secondary school, so we do middle and high school, right in the borough of Westchester, in western Westchester, based out of Providence Church right now. Just loving getting started, loving seeing the growth in our school so far, and loving the partnerships that we've been able to build, like this one here.
Yeah, it was really cool. I know, because it was, like you said, like 2 years ago, I guess. 2 years ago, that you come to us and you said, okay, we're going to start this school. I was like, wow. I feel like it's pretty rare that you see a brand new school pop up. So what was the motivation for a new school?
Yeah, I think it's very nuanced, I would say, but I think there was a lot of, I guess, skepticism with a lack of choice, and we wanted to be able to offer a rich, rigorous Christian education. So not only one that's challenging academically, but one that also helps students grow in their faith spiritually.
Right.
And that's just something that logically cannot happen in public schools, of course, because of separation of church and state, but we love that we can kind of grow students in this kind of twofold manner.
Right.
It is a privilege to be able to do it. So, and based on our growth, I think we've seen that there are people that believe in the vision and also want that for the school. So
right, yeah, it's so amazing to see something. It's such a big vision,
right?
Like you said, to start from nothing and move into a full school.
Yeah.
So when did you so you were on board from the very beginning, or did you join in some point along the early stages?
I would say I joined in from the early stages. I was there before opening day, right? Like the very first day of school, which was, early September, I think, 2021. Oh man, is that right? That's crazy to think about. I was teaching in London in the UK before then, and I heard about this startup happening in the Philly area, and I knew that I was firm in my faith, and I knew that I was excited to kind of get into a project from the ground up. And I mean, put myself aside, I mean, it's an awesome project, and it's a privilege to be in a school and build it from the ground and help build it from the ground up. It is so fun. You can think about that.
Yeah, I mean, so what are some of the pieces? I'm really curious from a school perspective, when you're building a new school,
right? What
are the main things that you focus on first?
Yeah.
What are those fundamental pieces? I know because it's a Christian school,
right?
That I know faith and spirituality is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
But almost just from like the business side of it.
Sure.
What were those conversations like? Those early conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think my perspective on the business is a little bit limited because of my role as academic dean. I really do focus on the academics.
Yeah.
I think as far as the business goes, though, what I can speak to is we want to offer a product or a service, for lack of a better term, that is not only competitive with the alternatives in the area, but we want to make one that offers something extra. We're starting to see growth in our school from students, from families who actually probably wouldn't say that they have a faith, but they would say, wow, I hear that you're doing something amazing, and I'm willing to put my kid in here and have him have like an effective educational experience. I'm trying to think of how to word it. Where they're not scared of the faith, I guess you could say. And that's a really cool opportunity for us because we get to share a faith in Christ with these students because of something that we're trying to do well.
Right.
So we want to, from the business side, we want to offer a service that is competitive in the area and kind of offers more so in different ways, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So in what ways are you being competitive in the space?
Yeah.
Like what are some of the main things that you're really focusing on that you want to set you apart from these other schools?
Yeah. That is an interesting question, and one that I will word very specifically. How's that sound? I think that there are certain ways that we can educate to the whole child, I'd say, as opposed to just the academics. And that's me speaking from a solely academic perspective, but we are very concerned with the character of a child. For example, if I were to tell a student not to do something in a public, and I was a public school teacher, I could appeal to a general sense of humanity, and that's good, right? But I get to appeal to something a little bit deeper here and say, hey, there's a faith that we buy into, right? That we not only buy into, but that we almost embrace as our identity. We say, okay, if you're with Jesus now, then this is not something that you step in and step out of. This is who you are as a Christian. So how can you say this is who you are and mistreat your brother and sister like this? It's very different from something that could be done in a public school. And again, logically, right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a privilege to be able to do that. And I would probably say just the little things as we look to challenge a student. We look to challenge a student's sense of independence and trust, I guess we could say. So where there might be a temptation to make a path as easy as possible for a student to kind of reduce friction, we actually kind of embrace that friction and would say, hey, we want you to take the initiative in this situation because in the future you will need to take the initiative in order to make situations work for you when you move into adulthood. And we try to kind of gradually release that, almost like take the training wheels off. So by the time they're in senior year of high school, they're pretty ready for college, and that transition a little bit more seamless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear how passionate and well-rounded that vision is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that from my marketing brain side, the whole background in marketing and web design and that sort of stuff. Every company has a vision.
Right.
And I know the school is different from a company.
Sure.
But every organization, like whether it is like a church or a school or a business, nonprofit, that mission and vision is core to everything.
Yeah.
So how have you seen that you can convey that vision? And again, this can apply to every organization.
Yeah.
How do you apply that vision into what you do? And again, just like almost generally taking this mission that you have and conveying it through the students. And to you, I guess, it's more to the parents, right?
Yeah.
It's your ideal target.
Parents. Yeah, that is tricky because we want to market to parents, but make a service that is appealing to kids in that sense.
Right.
I would say you need to make it concrete. So it shouldn't just be a mission and a vision. It should be a mission and a vision. And then I've been taught to have values and goals. And then to make your goals things that are actually something that you could say, yes, tick, this is done, tick, this is done. Without it, I feel like it can get a little too vague and you have a mission, but then you don't end up really landing anywhere near your vision. So, for example, what I was talking about, having students take initiative, when if there is an issue with a student and a student or a student and a teacher or something like that, we would put the initiative on the student to say, okay, hey, I don't want to, because I'm aware of this as a school administrator, I don't want to just say, oh, okay, I'll handle it. Like, this is something that you and the teacher or you and the student know much better about. So, hey, I want you to maybe think about asking these questions and going to this situation with more of a solutions mindset. And can you try to solve the problem like that? And it's a privilege because it's not as efficient as me just going in there as an adult and saying, let's just fix it. But that's what I'm talking about when I say we want to kind of embrace that friction a little bit more. Yeah. So that student, maybe it doesn't land the first time, but the student is much better off fixing it themselves and being dependent on myself or another school administrator for the rest of their time at Riverstone. We want to do something that's sustainable. And even though it's not necessarily easy.
Right. Yeah. You made a great point of taking a vision and making it actionable.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's that's something that I think every organization struggles with
Sure.
are those that conversion from, okay, we want to do this.
Yeah.
Now, how do we make it a reality?
Yeah.
So what were some of the steps that you were taking? Like, what are some of those action items for you?
Right, yeah. And to be fair, I want to say, because we are a small school, this is one of the exciting parts of building from the ground up. It's a lot easier to make these things actionable and kind of implement this, because it doesn't need to move through 50 people or 100 people or 1,000 people. I can't imagine what that would be like to push something through and say everybody needs to buy into this. I think that comes down to relationships, and it's tough to really build a strong relationship when you are such a, so, you know, pros and cons, right? There's no silver bullet in that sense. But when it comes to actionable goals, I think that was your original question. So our mission is centered around, I don't know if I could word it specifically off the top of my head, but our mission is centered around offering a rigorous academic experience and equipping our students with a faith in Christ so that they can go out and defend their faith, which we think that they will need to do in the future and have certain like solid, firm footing to stand on when trials come, because we believe that they will. So as far as actionable goals, we want to make an encounter with Jesus, or an encounter with Scripture at least, regular, daily. So we start with Bible or chapel classes every morning. Every day of the year. We try to, although classes differ depending on the teachers, naturally, I think we try to push not only just a knowledge of the Bible, but a knowledge of God. There's scripture that says, we prophesied in your name and we cast out demons, and Jesus says, I never knew you. And there's not much point in knowing a lot about scripture and even performing all these miracles if the kids don't know who God is in the future. I think going along with that, with how difficult it can be for teenagers today, knowing that there's a God that loves them and there's a God that supports them and is in their corner and is for them. How valuable is that, when the peer pressures and the trials come and the constant pressure to be connected and technology, right? Like there's such a great value for that. So I'd say the scriptural connections is massive. And that's probably the first and foremost is what we do. We also strive to provide a really rigorous academic experience. We don't feel the pressure to lower the bar. We want to set the bar, keep it where it is, and then have students kind of, for lack of a better term, feel the pressure and say, look, this is not going to change because of where you're at. Sure, we make accommodations, and here's a big education where we use scaffolding to make sure that students kind of get the supports that they need.
They're not totally on their own.
Exactly, right? We're not just saying, write this 10-page essay and good luck, right? But we strive to say, look, we're not gonna cheapen your education. Just because it's going to be easier. Again, there's going to be more friction, but it's going to be worth it in the futures.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious, over the last 5 to 10 years, how have you seen things change in the environment that you're in? So in the educational space,
Sure.
I mean, that's a huge topic, is how the trajectory of education, and you touched on it a little bit, of how you've seen things changing and the goals and how you're instilling the values at Riverstone. That not necessarily go counter to the trajectory of other schools. It's more like defining the values and taking action items to pursue those values. So I'd be curious to know from your perspective, and even in Christian education, how have things changed over the last 5-10 years?
That's a really difficult question, and again, one that I need to word kind of specifically, because I think sadly, the answer entails a lot of politics, or involves a lot of politics. There is a lot of interweaving between, or a lot of weaving between education and politics, and honestly, I've seen this in a lot of teachers, public and private. There's just a sense of being fed up by it. Like I had one teacher who was a legend in the field. He used to teach in inner city Kansas City, and he worked with students from all different backgrounds. And he would say, I don't care what happens when you have students in the room and you have a great curriculum to teach. You shut the door, and it is still the best job in the world. And I do sincerely believe that. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to involve innovative practices, but can I just have some space to help students become better readers or writers, or help them have a better understanding of where the country was, where the world was, grow in their maths and sciences. I mean, I think there's a lot of clutter. And I might say that from public and private, and Christian, right? Kind of falling in with private, where there's just a sense of can we just kind of take a step back and just go back to teaching. That's actually something that we hear a lot from our teachers is I'm so glad that I can just go back to teaching because I've been teaching we have a few teachers that have been teaching for 30 plus years, and they say I'm just so glad that I can go back to teaching and not have to focus on this widget or that widget or you know this funding or that funding. Like I can just teach math or teach civics or teach world geography. Like
it's like an agency problem.
Sure.
Like just like an independence.
Right.
Like just taking that hands-off approach.
Right.
But like you said, being hands-on in the scaffolding sense. Being hands-on enough, and you're very involved, but the lack of pressure, I think, can really allow people to flourish. And that's true for the students, but in this particular, like also for the teachers.
Well, and they're tied together, of course, right? So when one is flourishing, the other should be flourishing as well. So.
Yeah, and I guess even just if you were to look at, if there was a private Christian education 10 years ago, then how would the private Christian education now differ from that?
Yeah, I know you mentioned that in your last question too. I think, I think that there are maybe some hesitations to modernize that maybe have been kind of we've seen maybe schools kind of shake free of, and say, look, we can still offer a strong Christian education, and we don't need to be afraid of modern principles in order to still stick to good quality education. I'm trying to think of a better way to word it, but like if we want to stay competitive with schools in the area, we need to be able to take a look at what we're seeing around us and say, okay, this might be more clutter, to continue with that term, but this might be actually worthy of kind of implementing. And if I can stay on pace with those new methods or new ideas, reject the ones that we don't really feel fit into our mission, our vision, our values, our goals, and then stay based in the scriptural basis, the biblical basis, the Christian basis of this is what we believe and why we believe it, and we actually believe that there is a firm truth to stand on, and then still kind of take on those new ideas. It's kind of a roundabout way of answering it, but I would say that we're looking to innovate, but still stay firm to our principles.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. No, that's
all right.
That's a great way to say it.
Okay,
It totally makes sense.
Okay. Good.
So I think that's a great background on Riverstone.
Sure.
And what you guys are doing. So I'd love to touch on, of course, we're IT Edge.
Of course.
I'd love to touch on that technology aspect of what we're doing. So just generally, I'd love to hear from your perspective, how is technology incorporated, like from an education perspective, like as an educator, how do you leverage technology at the school? Yeah,
definitely. That's actually a great further response to your previous question as well.
Yeah.
I do think one of the things that we should say yes to is, yes, we should implement technology, but we should just be careful about leaning on it too much. So we're a one-to-one school with Chromebooks, but one of the ways in which we lean on IT Edge is just basic filtering for on the router side and also on the hardware side. So using that filtering can just help students use technology to be more efficient, but not hopefully not develop sort of like handicaps based on that that efficiency. I'm still able to, one of the things I speak a lot with my English students is I'm still able to write well with pen and paper without all of the grammar and spell checks that have become pretty commonplace and just about everywhere you type these days. So that's definitely one. We are a one-to-one school. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but we are a one-to-one school with Chromebooks. So students have that. We try to leverage technology in that sense. Our curriculum, this is a little bit confusing. Our curriculum is housed online, but we're not an online school, so it's not like students are looking at laptops all day, every day. I would say an average class, students will use their Chromebooks like 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes sometimes lessons don't really involve the Chromebook. Sometimes if I'm having students like peer review or write essays, it's a little bit more Chromebook intensive. But we want to make sure that we use Chromebooks in that sense. And then as far as IT Edge goes, our website is pristine. It is incredible.
Thank you.
Yes, and it is well balanced. It helps people understand what we're about when they come to our website. It looks clean. It looks professional, right? It ticks all these boxes that we need. So when somebody hears about us and they say, "Oh, let me see if I can learn more about them," it doesn't necessarily serve the educational perspective, but it serves the perspective of let's market to parents who might put their kids in our school. Right. I just think it embodies our mission really well. So.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and we're still doing continual improvements with anything.
Right? Yeah.
We continue to make improvements and adjustments and new pages and new features and all this stuff, which is super fun for me and our team and what we're doing. So it's been a pleasure really to work with you guys and build that out.
Of course.
So what are some of the components on the site? I could list a few, which I might after
Of course.
you go, but,
of course.
What are some of the components on the site that in particular you really like, that you think are really eye-catching or direct people in the right place?
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know.
I'll be honest. So I teach a little bit of computer science, and when I heard that we had a website, I like stuck my nose up a little bit, and I said, I really hope this implements some modern web design principles. I really hope that we're not coming at this as to be rude a little bit to the computer nerds, so I'm being rude to myself a little bit. Maybe the lack of aesthetic eye. But you go on it, and not only does it communicate well, but aesthetically it looks amazing. The modern web design principles are evident. You move through, and just about every immediate bit of knowledge that you would want is right there on the home page. You're not going to separate pages. You are scrolling up and down, and you're able to see very cleanly, very clearly the different aspects of the school. I love that you have the Google reviews right up on the home page now. It's one thing for us to say that we're a good school, but I love that we have parent testimonials, I guess you could say, just saying, hey, we're so happy that Riverstone has been the school solution for our child.
Right. Just to jump on that, because I totally agree. That review piece, and I don't even know, I think that might have been a recommendation from your team. That was something that we didn't originally have on the landing page. I mean, partly because reviews take a while to accrue.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that there's a nice base before you put them up. But the recommendation from the team of, we need to get testimonials up.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to just put in text of these testimonials.
Right.
But to have something where, one, it's like an official Google approved everything. So it looks all official. And then anytime someone leaves a Google review, it'll automatically populate over.
Oh, will it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
So having that where it's a feature that you can, you're getting the reviews, and now they're appearing in two places.
Sure.
And it's totally automated.
Gotcha.
Which is such a huge benefit.
Yeah. Easy.
Because people will go on Maps, or they do a Google search, whatever, and it'll pop up in Google. So, okay, great, it's good to have these. But then I think it incentivizes reviews, from the administration perspective, or whoever goes out and gets the reviews.
Yeah, sure.
But also, if you're a parent and you really believe in the mission, then it's like, okay, I'm not just showing up on this Google page. Like, I'm going to be featured on the website too.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are. Yeah.
So it's a nice like selling point too, because I know getting reviews from people is not easy.
Yeah.
Like your particular service or product or the school can be amazing, but it's a whole separate set of steps.
It is
to get people to like write about it and put it out somewhere. So I totally understand that it's tough to do that. So any way that we can make that as easy as possible, that's what we're gonna go towards.
Yeah, it's been a great addition, a really, really great addition.
Yeah. Anything else that you can think of on the site that you like as a feature on there?
Yeah. Recently we put together a staff page, kind of an about us. Again, it looks nice. It looks organized. There's pictures, bios, everything fits the color scheme. Everything fits the overall theme of the website, which is great. We have our mission, vision, values, goals on there, at least our mission vision on there, which is awesome. We have a separate like blog kind of sub page, I guess, which if we're honest, we're very busy during the year. So we normally try to populate during the summer, but that's always really, really good. And this might be more targeted to specific audiences, but our SEO has been really good. We get reports based on our web traffic through IT Edge. Very helpful. We can see I think just yesterday even maybe I got a report from March Performance 2023, and I wanted to know, hey, how does this compare to 2022? And I got that within hours. So all of the SEO, the plugins, everything that we have to kind of help promote our brand and our school is very very helpful. It's really good.
Yeah, I'd love to touch on, and this is something that we don't particularly help Riverstone with, but on the social media side, I'd love to hear just a little bit about what you guys are doing on social media.
Sure.
What kind of stuff you put out? Is that something that's been helpful for you?
Yeah, I would say it is. I think social media is really cool because we almost get to brag about what our students are doing, not only their accomplishments, but also the unique opportunities that we get to take them to. Yesterday we went to Sight and Sound to go see Moses out in Ronks, I guess like closer to Lancaster. And it's just it's one of those really unique experiences that we're able to offer with our students. So so I'd say social media is very valuable. It's not necessarily something that is bringing parents directly to our school, but I think it's a way to not only to celebrate our students, but to say to the world, hey, look at our school. We're very proud of what we're doing. So let's celebrate a little bit at these accomplishments.
I've always seen social media, like some people use it for lead gen, like getting new clients in or getting new parents, like getting new students. But for me, I've actually seen it's better. Like it's great for that. It's good to show people, but it's almost better as like a community building tool. Like you said, like look at what we've done. You're in our community. Now, like, come along with us for the ride.
So and if we make it look good, then they'll want to come along for the ride.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does depend on the industry. I don't know many parents who would say, well, social media makes this look good, so I'm just going to enroll right off the bat. Normally it goes social media, website, and then a phone call, and then we get them in for
then a tour.
It has to be that personal connection if they're going to entrust their child to us. So.
Cool. So I have a final question for you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
it's dramatic. It's a very... Okay, good. A final question.
So I'm just curious, from your perspective, if you're a parent and you have kids in middle school or high school, what's the main thing that you look for in a school if you're between 2 or 3 schools? And you have one thing to pick. That's the key driver.
Wow.
What would you say
that
difference is?
A final dramatic question, this is such a crucial question to our school. Basically, why would you pick RUCA over other schools? I think there are plenty of schools that would say, what do you want to be in the future? And we want to equip you to do everything that you can possibly need to do in order to make that future a reality. And I think that's wonderful, and I think that's still very valuable. I just don't think that's the whole piece. When I look at people's LinkedIn page and I see that they went to school for this, or they went to college for this, and they completely pivoted, and now they're 50 and doing something completely different than whatever it was that they studied in their undergrad. It doesn't make that experience in middle and high school void, null, like a moot point. It's still valuable, but we're not only focused on that, we're focused on who a student is, and it ties back to the goals that I mentioned earlier on in the interview. If I think we know this, you want to work with somebody who is a team player, who is okay with taking the initiative, who is selfless, who is willing to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the team to help people out. You can put a person like that in any industry, and generally they're going to be successful. There are some industries where they're going to need specific skills. Of course, you can take somebody who knows nothing about IT and put them in IT Edge. Maybe they're willing to learn, and that's good, but they're still starting from scratch. Yeah. But you'd much rather work with somebody who's willing to learn those things, right? And has that base, than somebody who maybe knows all those things but is going to be miserable to work with. And that's something that I think, again, not to bash other schools or public school or anything like that, but it's something that I think we have a unique opportunity to educate to, and that's one of our main goals at RUCA is not what do you want to be, but who are you going to be? It's a privilege to do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on and
of course
talking to me.
Yeah.
I really value the conversation.
Me too.
Education is a huge point these days. Besides the IT and web design work that we've done,
absolutely,
that's nothing compared to educating future generations. So thank you for everything that you do.
Of course, thank you for everything you do for us, Braedon. Appreciate it.
All right.